I love it. And I'll plus your comment on stage definitions. We had Jamie Buss on the podcast, and I probably bring this episode up like every 10 episodes because it had a real impact on me and on the company. But we implemented her stage definitions, and basically her comment was every every stage in your opportunity pipeline stage has to have a customer verifiable outcome.
Yep.
And adding that customer, like an externally validatable customer verifiable outcome and a qualification methodology sitting on top. She was using Medic or MedPick at the time. That was a total game changer for us internally, for me as a sales leader, for our team, in terms of having a better grip on where our customers really at.
Yep. No, and you talk about, I mean, it's in the name of your company, right? When you talk about predictable, that's what you need, because different salespeople and different marketers, for that matter, right, have different levels of realism, optimism, pessimism, that sort of thing, right? And you want to normalize that within your pipeline in order to have predictable revenue. So, did you get that customer-oriented outcome or client-oriented outcome? I really like the way that's phrased. That's really smart. Just from Zendesk, right?
Mhm.
Cool.
Yeah, we'll
Nice.
throw a link in the show notes because I probably bring it up like honestly like every 10 episodes.
Sweet.
But she was forecasting at the time, this is a couple years ago, a half billion in revenue, and she was forecasting the quarters within 1%. And my head
That's
exploded when she
awesome.
shared that with me.
That is so awesome. I mean, good for her. That's the only way to achieve it is through doing what she did with just that one sort of example. I'm sure there's a bunch of things to make sure to keep people honest and that sort of idea. But that's fantastic. One of the things I wanted to hit on too is just and you alluded to it when you talked about the badge scans, the what I would term as more, to be generous, I would call them leading indicators of success. If I'm not generous, which often I'm not, I would call them vanity metrics, frankly. So basically just being very much aligned with your revenue team. And one thing too is, like, we talk about marketing, we talk about sales, that sort of thing. And your previous podcast, Tom from SoCo alluded to this, and I completely agree. It's all revenue. We're all on the same team here. And, basically, if there is alignment between sales and marketing, there's actually a study done. If there's alignment with them, then all other things being equal, revenue's 30% higher. So to basically have everybody singing from the same songbook is super important. So basically, just establishing the metrics by which you're going to be evaluating success on of individuals and that sort of thing, right? And so we're going to talk about how the metrics kind of change between smaller companies and larger organizations. But you need to make the determination as to what is important, what is a metric versus what is a KPI. KPI is essentially, that is the success. I would argue metrics are more about, they're sort of signposts along the way that you are doing a pretty good job. They're what you dig into to understand why the KPI is so strong or so weak this quarter, this month, what have you. And then obviously measuring those in as automated a fashion as possible and making sure that that tracking is set up effectively.
Love it. And so let's talk before we jump into, we're going to talk kind of about the team from an MVP team and then the optimal team later. And then we'll get into the channels. But before we do, let's talk about some of the terminology we're going to be using, some of the metric to talk about some of these metrics.
Sure. So basically, we spoke about CAC already. That's very important, cost per acquisition. Some people also call it CPA. Cost per acquisition. There's also either average order value or average contract value or total contract value. So the size of the deal that's coming in, kind of thing. And then we're going to talk about, conversion rates. And that just means, and a lot of people think that, okay, well, that means, the amount of deals that actually close. Conversion rates are meant to be measured all along the journey, from creating that lead to begin with, to the next stage, which is a qualified lead, to the next stage, which is and this is different for every company, but you need to understand what we call micro conversion rates at each sort of stage. And then sales cycle, there's not really an acronym there, but the sales cycle length, as well as how long does it actually take for deals to move through at each different stage, and leads to move through at each different stage, right? Because that's going to allow you to sort of target in and say, hey, Why does it take us, 4 months in contracting every time when this should be a 3-week sort of thing? And you could actually, drill down on that, identify the problem. Maybe you're not bringing legal in soon enough, for example. Maybe you have some issues with your contract that's always being flagged with legal, that sort of thing. But it allows you to really dig in and tweak those micro conversion rates and that time and stage in order to accelerate your pipeline dramatically.